To start today's Fit Round the Table, I'm joined by Sonia McCay, a highly experienced Pilates-based physiotherapist, businesswoman, and a latterly long-distance swimmer. And we may get to that a wee bit later on. Sonia, you're very welcome to Fit Round the Table. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
What I want to do first is just have a little look at what got you involved in using exercise as a means of recovery for injury and as a means of life enhancement for seniors.
Well, Mike, it's been quite a journey. I've been qualified as a physiotherapist since 1995, qualified from Edinburgh, and had about 5 years experience in the NHS, and then realised I wanted to specialise in musculoskeletal physiotherapy, which can be anything from back pain to post-operative rehab to fractures, you name it, we see it. And I suppose with lots of years working in musculoskeletal physiotherapy, I started to realise that we needed something to rehabilitate our clients, not just giving them exercises to continue at home, but something a little bit more structured. And that's when I discovered the wonderful restorative powers of Pilates.
Pilates, yes. I've only dabbled in it very, very briefly. In fact, I had the opportunity very recently to go to one of your Pilates-based classes for seniors. And I was lucky enough to see the class in action. And I was even luckier because I got talking to Judith Goodall, who is a retired nurse and who is one of the members of the class. She spoke to me about the impact for her of Pilates-based physiotherapy. Let's take a look at that now.
So I am here as, I'll say, an investment for my old age, in that I want to bank some exercises that will keep me in the upright position for as long as I can possibly be.
That sounds absolutely fabulous. Just tell us the difference that being part of this Pilates class has made to you.
I'll say the very fact that we are women of a certain age, some of whom probably will have, a bit like me, really not exercised a great deal through their lives, but have begun to realise that exercise is the name of the game, the crux of the matter. Because attending this class literally leaves me, Mike, when I leave it, I have a sense of well-being. I'm going to say to you that I can feel energised to the degree that I would normally walk up the stairs. But when I finish Pilates, I find myself unconsciously running. So it becomes automatic to me. And I think, where did that come from? How have I been able to do that? But I realise it's whatever the juice is that's released in those muscles and joints, that's what has allowed me to actually perform the exercises.
Yes, so why don't we just hold it to your chest?
So Sonia, Judith's clearly convinced by the powers of Pilates, but tell me, what is Pilates exactly?
In its most basic form, Pilates is a series of exercises designed to increase our flexibility, our mobility, our core strength and our balance. It was developed by the wonderful Joseph Pilates back in the 20th century. He was a German and he was detained in a prisoner of war camp. And during his time in this prisoner of war camp, he brought his own personal experience of exercise to help rehabilitate his fellow detainees. He used a series of exercises which are now known worldwide as Pilates mat work. He's a very interesting character and he used a lot of basic equipment that he found around the camp, like old springs from mattresses, which actually have evolved now into our modern day Pilates in the form of the reformer machine, which is a very specific type of Pilates that we use now. So in its most basic form, we look at postural settings, we look at restoring normal movement, trying to correct muscle imbalances which might potentially lead to injury along the way, and ultimately developing a class that people will enjoy and take into their everyday life.
You noticed and smiled when I straightened up.
I saw that, Mike.
What I'm wondering now is, can you make that last for me? Can you show me some exercises in Pilates that will help me with my posture
Yes.
and with my overall lifestyle?
I certainly will.
So Sonia, let's try it.
So Mike, I'm going to run through a few basics of Pilates, and this is something that I would do at the start of one of my classes. So the basics before we start, we're looking at how your posture is, okay? So you're going to stand roughly with your feet hip width position, okay? So you can do it like this, where you can separate your heels and feet. I want you just to soften your knees, try and avoid locking at the knees. And then we come to this area here, which is your pelvis. I want you to think of your pelvis like a bucket, and you're going to move that bucket, okay? It's called a pelvic tilt, and we're going to explore the range of movement that you have. So you're exploring that range of movement, and then you're coming to a point where you feel is roughly about that halfway mark, okay? And you can feel that your deep abdominals are starting to work and starting to stabilize that area that is your pelvis. Moving on up to the rib cage, we want to think about stacking the rib cage over the pelvis to put you in a much stronger position. It provides that contact between the rib cage and the pelvis. And then we're thinking about your shoulders, nice wide collarbone, drawing the shoulders down into those back pockets. Okay, and we think about your head, you're drawing your chin in towards you, that feeling of length through the back of the neck. I want you to imagine that you've got a peach between your chin and your neck, and you're not going to lose that peach. Okay, so it might feel a little forced to begin with.
Weird.
But then it'll become a little bit more natural as we start to move. So we're going to use our kitchen table and our chair just to assist us a little bit today.
I've just dropped my peach, by the way.
You've dropped your peach. So come and place your hands onto the back of the chair.
Okay, right.
Okay, so you're going to step towards the chair. Now, obviously, to progress the exercise, we could have less contact with the chair. So we start with the chair to see how you go. And from there, I'm going to ask you to peel alternate heels. Okay, so it's as if we're going for a little walk. Okay. And we're going to try and avoid too much movement at the hips so that we're keeping a good stable pelvis. And as you're doing this,
basically only wanting me to move my knees here.
Yes.
So move from the knees on the ankles.
yes, and we're still thinking
And the
about the
toes.
position of the bucket as well.
Okay.
Good. And we want to make sure that that rib cage is nicely stacked over the pelvis. Good. Now we're going to start to progress that a little bit, and we're going to think about a double heel peel. Okay, so we're getting a little bit more effort through the legs, which is a great strengthening exercise as we grow older. Try and keep your toes on the floor and let it come from your heels. You're peeling up through your heel, through the ball of your foot, and we want to try and get you using that big toe joint.
As I do this, I'm thinking of how awkward it must be to walk in high heels.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely impossible.
And certainly as physiotherapists, we would advocate that that is perhaps one of the underlying causes of back pain. Now, from there, I'm going to start to think a little bit more about your balance. So you're balancing with the back of the chair here. Can you take the weight onto one foot?
Yes.
Okay, so if you start by just a heel peel on one side, and that gets us thinking a little bit more about directing the weight through that side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
That's it.
That's very interesting.
And then we could make it a little bit harder by taking the weight completely off the balanced leg.
Completely off the balance leg.
That's it.
Sorry,
You're doing
the
really
balance
well.
leg's in there. There's no.
Yes,
yeah.
that's it.
Okay. Wow. It's amazing where I'm feeling that. What's actually quite worrying is the amount of sway.
Yes, so we're trying to
sway.
limit that sway as much as we can by thinking about all these components of Pilates.
Yeah.
And we can make that even a little bit more difficult by closing your eyes. And this is something that we would recommend that you do on a daily basis. So for example, you're waiting on the kettle to boil, you're brushing your teeth. Anything that you do as part of a routine in your day, this could be used.
So I could be trying to do this.
Yes.
Wow, and I'd be
Yes.
falling over.
But you'd be practicing it on a daily basis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we can take it a little bit further now and into something a bit more functional. So we all want to be able to get off our chair.
Okay.
Okay. We sometimes use the lowest seat in the house as
Okay,
our
yes.
goal, which
Yes.
of course is the WC.
The toilet,
So we
absolutely.
want to think about this again, coming from a little bit of help from the chair.
Okay.
So if you place your hands just lightly onto the back of the chair, okay,
Yes.
we're going to walk back a little bit just to give you a bit of length with this.
Okay.
And I want you to
Now,
still.
do you still want my shoulders straight, or can
Yes.
I arch them a little bit to reach?
Well, you can reach towards there, but you're still thinking about drawing the.
Okay,
You
so
can step
I
in
do
a
it
little
from the
bit
waist.
closer. Yeah,
Do
you
it from the waist?
Yeah, you
Is that
can go
okay?
from there. That's
Okay,
fine.
cool.
And then from here, we're going to direct the movement through the back of the hips, as if you were going to sit onto this low seat,
Okay.
and then you're going to come all the way back up. Now we're looking at the line of this, so we want
Yes.
to try and keep the foot, the knee, and the hip all in the same line. We're trying to avoid any tracking or rolling of the knee,
Okay, so-
and keeping the knee nice and
So
steady.
if I can just exaggerate for a second, you don't want me to do this?
No.
Okay.
That is it. It's not that it's wrong, but I'm looking more to utilise your glute muscles
Okay.
and make this more functional.
Okay.
And then if that was going well, and maybe we were looking at 2 sets of 10 repetitions and you were managing that with no problem, then what I might ask you to do is just to hold the position and do some pulses.
So-
Now the pulse is coming from the hips, not on the knees and not on the spine.
Do you want me holding the chair when I do that?
So you can, but if
What
you
would you
felt,
like me to do?
well, you start with that.
Okay,
But a
cool.
progression at home
Okay.
would be to think about maybe taking the hands away
And-
from the chair.
And the pulsing, you said don't use your knees?
Just keep your knees really steady and
Okay.
let it come from the hips. Okay, and you're still feeling obviously the deep abdominals. You're doing really well, Mike. Keep the shoulders back and down. Think about drawing the chin in
I've
towards
just
you a
lost
little.
I've lost the peach. by
You've
the way.
lost the peach.
The peach is gone.
Okay.
I'm still using my knees. I don't know how to avoid that.
So think about sitting back into the seat. Imagine you're touching your bottom to the seat.
Yes, okay.
That's it.
I'm on the seat.
That's you're on the
Okay,
seat, and
yeah.
you're just going to lift your bottom off the seat. That's it.
Okay.
And then down into it. Good, you're doing really well. And
Okay.
actually, Mike, you're getting very low, which is super.
Okay.
So the other thing that you could do if you're not using the chair for balance is give yourself a little bit of feedback on the pelvis, so you could have your fingertips just to the edge of the pelvis.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
that
and that
makes
just
so much
gives you
sense.
a
yeah.
little bit of feedback
Yeah.
on the position of the
Yeah.
pelvis. Okay, and we
Yes.
just want to think about just softening the rib cage. Imagine a little spring between your rib cage and your pelvis, and you want to keep that spring taut, and that will
Yes.
help with the engagement of the
Yeah,
muscle.
and I'm feeling it. I am feeling it.
And
yeah.
watching that the knees aren't rolling in. Think about the tracking.
Yeah.
Think about your skiing.
Okay. Right.
Lovely. And then we'll bring you back up into standing.
Thank
How are
goodness
the
for that.
legs?
They're feeling it.
Good. So the next exercise that I would suggest, if we're looking at weight-bearing exercises, which as we both know is very important as we age, we're thinking about bone density, we're thinking about muscle strength. So with that in mind, I have 2 options for a standing lunge. One, we go for a little bit more support with the chair. Okay, so we have our hands on the chair, okay, and
Yeah.
even coming into this position, okay, it's going to challenge the legs. And then we can step back and we can just do a little bit of a lunge from here. Now I'm
Okay.
watching that my knee isn't tracking over
Yeah.
my foot too much, and where I will be feeling this is in through my outer glute muscle,
Yes.
which is going to be helping to stabilize my hip and my pelvis.
Yeah.
Now, if I wanted to make that a little bit more challenging for you, I turn the chair, or you could use the edge of your table.
Okay.
Okay, have your hands lightly onto this. Now, I always think that there is a lunge for everyone.
Yes.
So you could have a knee replacement or arthritis in your knee or in your hip, but we can adapt it. Okay. So I usually start with a small stride length and work at perfecting the position. And then if that feels okay, then we can go to a wider stride length and we can perhaps go a little deeper into the lunge. Remember that you're thinking of all your basics
Yes.
that we've already talked
All
about,
of those
incorporating
things, yeah,
into
yeah.
the exercise. So I'm going to come from my pelvic tilt, my shoulders back and down, and I'm going to step back, not too far to begin with, and then I'm going to come in to my lunge.
Okay.
And then all the way up. Okay,
And
so let's have a
you're
look at
using
you.
your toe. I was trying to do that with my foot flat on the floor. That's not the
No,
answer.
we want to have the heel up so
Yeah.
that we can get the effort coming through the weight-bearing joints.
Okay.
Okay,
So will we go
try-
low first?
We'll go low, yes.
Okay, all
Either
right.
of these can be adapted
I-
and progressed.
I looked at you doing the low and I went, I don't know I can do that. So
Mike.
let's just try it.
I know you can. I know you can.
Okay. So,
Okay, so you're going to place your hands onto the chair first, and then we can work out where we want to be. So if you put your hands just slightly further in, just so you've got a bit more stability.
Okay, cool.
Okay, now come in a little bit closer towards it.
okay.
Okay, and then you're going to step back with your right foot.
Okay.
Okay, and then just bend both knees for me. Okay, so that allows us plenty of help from the chair.
Yeah.
And actually you're getting a lovely range of movement, and we're not getting too much tracking over the foot, which is wonderful, and hoping that you're feeling that coming down into your left quadricep, which is your left thigh,
Okay, I'm feeling it in both
and both,
quadriceps,
yes,
actually,
absolutely.
yes.
But we're getting plenty of stability on the outside of this left hip.
And should my shoulders be straighter?
Again, we want to think about just trying to widen the collarbone.
Okay.
Okay, and we've got a nice straight spine, so that's lovely. You're doing
Okay.
really well.
Okay.
Should
Can I
we
get
take
up
it
now?
up a level? Yes.
Okay, right.
Yes, so you're going to step
Shall
towards
we,
your chair.
when we go up a level, shall we do the other leg?
Certainly. We'll
Okay.
give you a little bit of a breather on that. Okay, so we can use the back of the chair for this. Now, just if you are doing this at home, you would obviously need to be careful that you weren't pulling on the chair, so just
course.
keep it nice and steady.
Okay.
Keep us
Cool.
safe for our balance. So again, nice and light. Okay, you're going to place your hands onto the back of the chair. Step in a little bit, Mike. Okay, now let's think about what we've talked about already today. Okay, we're dispersing the weight equally between the two legs. We're thinking about the tripod position. Okay, often we would be doing this in our Pilates socks and not in our shoes, so it's a little bit easier to think about how we distribute the weight.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to think about our bucket positions. We're going to tilt our pelvis both directions. We're going to think about just bringing that rib cage over the pelvis into a stacked position, nice wide collarbone, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so you're going to do your opposite leg this time.
Yeah.
So you're going to step back when you're ready with your left leg. That's it. And then you're going to take it down into that lunge. Just work in your own comfortable range with
Did you
this.
hear that crack?
So we don't worry about those, so long as they're not painful.
No.
Okay, everybody's joints creak and crack a little bit.
Okay.
Good.
That's much harder because I'm on my subdominant leg.
Yes, now you
Much
need to
harder.
have the back heel up. So your left heel up, which will
Yeah.
make this a little bit more secure for you. Try and keep your shoulders back so we're coming down with a straight spine. Now, if you were in my studio, you would have a mirror beside you and you'd be able to look to see where your position is, and you would have lots of feedback. So at home, it is quite useful if there's a long mirror and you can look at your position. Not something that you might have in your kitchen though. That's good.
We can look on playback.
Good. So
and
as
be
you're
embarrassed.
coming down into this, so take
Yes.
it down again, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, and then you think about just tucking that tailbone under.
Okay, yeah.
Good, and drawing the shoulders back, softening through the rib cage, and then you're coming back up. Well done.
I really felt that.
So if I was suggesting a little bit of a regime for you at home, we would be building up in sets of 10. So we would try 10 of your squats, see if you can progress that to 2 sets, then into your lunges, see if you can build up to 2 sets of 10 with that as well.
Wow, yeah.
Now, we can also do some seated Pilates. Okay, so it's not always possible, I know, for people to do it in a weight-bearing position, but there's lots that you can do in sitting as
Okay.
well. And particularly, we have found following the COVID pandemic how sedentary we all became. So a lot more people coming for physiotherapy for stiff backs. And one of the areas that we really want to make the most of and try and get as much mobility as we can is your thoracic spine,
Okay.
which is your middle spine. That's where we get a lot of our rotational movement from.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Mike, to sit for me.
Okay,
Okay, so if you have a seat,
I will. Okay. Right back on the
I'm
chair or
going to
mid?
just keep you away from the back of the
Okay,
chair.
cool.
Okay, we don't want you getting any help from the back of the chair. So we're going to have a think about the concept that we've already talked about, and we're going to have a look at your seated pelvic tilt this time.
Okay.
Okay, so if you bring your feet forward, so you can think exactly the way that we did this in standing.
Okay.
So we're going to have the knees just roughly hip width position.
Okay.
Okay, and then I want you to think about that bucket. Okay, so you're going to let that bucket tip forward and back. Perfect. That's excellent. And
Easier
then-
to do on the chair, actually.
Good.
Much easier to do on the
Good.
chair.
So you're getting a little bit of feedback
Yeah,
from
'cause
the
you- 'cause
chair.
You can feel what position your pelvis is in.
Good. And then
Okay.
just think about the shoulders as well, Mike, and think about softening down through the rib cage. Now, from here, I'm going to give you 2 exercises. So the first one, I'm going to ask you to bring your hands into a prayer position. Okay. So we're thinking about that wide collarbone position. Okay. We're going to keep the pelvis steady. We're going to keep those knees steady. So we're getting good tracking between the hip and the knee. And then we're going to bring you into rotation. Now your head and neck will follow the movement, but the key area here is through your mid-back. So you're going to keep your pelvis as steady as you can. We call the 2 sides of the pelvis, we talk about laser lights. Okay, so we want to keep these laser lights
Pointing them,
facing
yeah.
forward.
Yes.
And then you're going to try and get as much movement through the middle of your back as possible.
Okay.
Think about your breathing control with this as well. So I always try to explain it that you're breathing out on the movement. So breathing out as you rotate, round as far as you can, keeping an eye that the knees are nice and steady, good position with the feet, and then you're going to come right round to the other side. And you're free from the chair, so the chair won't get in the way of this. Keep drawing the chin in towards you. That peach mic is back in place. Good. So breathing out into it. And as you get a little bit more comfortable with the movement, you can speed it up a little bit, but you can start slow and steady until you work out your own range. And of course, we don't want to be working through any pain with this. So we're trying to explore the range of movement that we have through that middle back. And again, I would be looking roughly about 8 repetitions to each side, building it up to 10 repetitions as you move. That's it. And it's a comfortable movement to do. It's something that you could be doing seated at a desk, perhaps if you're doing some work at your laptop.
Even if you were sitting at your computer, you could still do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we try to encourage regular mobility of anybody that is sitting for any prolonged period.
One of the things I find really hard is if I get up after now these days 15 to 20 minutes, I have fairly serious pain in my pelvis area. Okay, it walks out after maybe 10 seconds, but it's still there, including when I'm driving, so we've got to be aware of that. Yeah. Why have we
Yeah,
got my
so
hands up
even
like that?
talking about driving, you could be doing your seated pelvic tilt.
Of course, yeah.
Just firing up those muscles
Yes.
when you're waiting for the green light to
sitting
go.
at traffic lights, yeah.
Absolutely. So there's another exercise that would follow on well from this, and we
Okay.
call this arm openings. So again, your seated pelvic tilt, Mike, as you did before,
yep.
drawing the shoulders back, and then you're going to float your arms up in front. So you're going to float up to about 90 degrees shoulder flexion. Palms of the hands are facing in. Okay, now it's important that as well as moving our mid-back, we want to try and mobilise your shoulder blade, this area here, and we're going to bring in some neck movement with this as well. Okay, so you're going to bring this arm round towards me, turn your head to follow the movement,
Okay.
and let's see if we can get some nice release in
Okay.
through the front of the shoulders.
Yeah.
And then we float the arm back, and we do the same on the other side. So you're following the movement with your head and neck, you're looking over your shoulder.
yeah.
You want to get the release across these tight pec
okay,
muscles,
yeah,
Mike,
yeah, yeah.
and get the shoulder blade to move.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that you
Really
could do
helpful, that, yeah.
10 repetitions to each side. And
Okay.
as you become more au fait with it, the movement will flow more. Keep the opposite side steady.
Still, yeah.
That's it. Good. Follow the movement round. So again, if we are quite sedentary in our lifestyle and we are perhaps sitting quite a lot at a computer or at a desk, we can get quite tight in round through the front of the shoulders, which can sometimes lead to other problems like impingement or rotator cuff issues perhaps around the shoulder. So this is a good way of just trying to create some length down through the front of the shoulder and into the arm. And of course, at the same time, we are rotating through our mid-back, which is very important. If we lose mobility in that mid-back, that can have implications on your neck and on your low back. So we're looking for good quality range of movement.
And I'm very conscious as I'm doing this, Sonia, of the need to maintain the form right. You know,
Absolutely.
there's no point in going,
Yes,
because that's not doing
that's
it right.
right.
You
So
have to
within
do
a
it right.
class, we would be giving feedback all the time.
Yes.
Visual cueing, manual cueing. That's why we talk about the peach and lots of different things that people can equate to the exercise and remember as well. So you've done very well with these, Mike.
In doing it at home, if you've got a full-length mirror, would that help?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you
Yes.
can do it in front of the mirror, and you can take your eyes off yourself as well.
That's right,
So
absolutely.
you follow the movement, and you can see if you're doing it right as you come back into vision. Wow.
The standing mirror, of course, the long mirror, very good for the standing exercises as well. So you could still have your chair
Yes.
positioned in front of your full-length mirror,
course,
and
yeah.
you could be working from there.
And if you don't have a mirror of that type, what you could do is you could put your mobile phone on the table
Yes,
with it switched to selfie,
yes,
and just run a video, and that'll let you see
absolutely.
how good you're being.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And you're looking at all the positions for the different exercises and trying to think about your form, think about your posture, and then when you go out for your daily walk, you're trying to incorporate all of this.
Sonia, this has been a most helpful process for me. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time and the effort that's gone into it to spend time with us here at Fit Round the Table.
Thank you, Mike. I'm delighted to be here, and you were an excellent model. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'm feeling all good about myself now. This is a very favourite part of the programme for me, because I can stop exercising my body and start exercising my mind with Dr Catherine Hughes, talking about nutrition and what we need to eat as seniors to give us better life quality. Catherine, you're very welcome to Fit Round the Table. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, today what we're going to talk about is what is actually a healthy diet. So, number one, we need to eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. Currently, most of us only eat 3. Number 2, we need to think about fibre. We need to increase our fibre in our diet. Think about whole grain foods, adding fibre, cereals, oats to our breakfast, that sort of thing. We need to think about number 3, we need to think about protein. We need high quality proteins to maintain our muscle as we go into older age. We need to think about dairy foods for our bones and all our systems. If we don't eat dairy foods, look, and you're using a dairy alternative, make sure it's fortified. Think about fat, the unsaturated fats, rather, and limit those saturated fats in our diet. We need to limit things that are high in salt, we need to limit things that are high in sugar and high in fat. And lastly, we think hydration. We need 6 to 8 cups of water a day. If we do that, we'll have a healthy, balanced diet that meets all our nutritional needs. And as long as you don't omit any of the food groups, you should meet your nutritional needs. There's 2 exceptions. Vitamin D, we cannot get that from our diet alone. We have to either get it from the synthesis from the sun or take our vitamin D supplement. The other vitamin is vitamin B12. Our body can't absorb it as we grow older, and so we might have to think about, in other parts of the world, they recommend that you take a fortified food or a supplement for B12. We don't do that here, but our research has shown if you eat a fortified breakfast cereal, you're actually overcoming that age decline that we see in vitamin B12.
What's a fortified breakfast food?
So this is where we have, say, a breakfast cereal where there's extra vitamins and minerals have been added into it. So that really helps boost our status and gets us off to a very good start in the day.
Is there somewhere on the internet that I can go to that gives me a suggestion of diet that would be good for someone in my age group?
Yes, so go to the British Nutrition Foundation. If you go to the British Nutrition Foundation, they have user-friendly public leaflets that give you all the advice you need on how to eat healthfully, particularly as you enter into older age.
Thank you very much indeed for telling us so much about nutrition, so much about what we need to look at and look after ourselves to have a healthy lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you.